The key jammed in the lock. A fumble. Then the door swung open. It was past midnight. I was on the couch, scrolling on my phone. Mark walked in, but he wasn't solo. His boy Jake followed him in. Jake was always just there, at the bar after work, watching the game at our place. A permanent fixture. All right, before we get into this, if you're new here, do us both a favor and hit that subscribe. You're not gonna want to miss this story. Let's get back to it. The vibe in the room shifted instantly. Mark's eyes had this glint, not drunk but wired. Jake leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, checking me out on the couch. I sat up straight. "Liz, we're all grown-ups here," Mark said, his voice too light. He tossed his keys on the table. The sound was sharp. "I'm heading to bed," I said, standing up. "Stay." It was a command. He went to the kitchen, grabbed 2 beers from the fridge, handed one to Jake. Jake and I were talking. About trust. About what it really means. The word trust landed wrong. I looked at my husband, then at his friend. Jake's smirk was a blade. "I got it, all of it." The way Jake always found an excuse to put a hand on my shoulder. Mark's jokes about how his boys were his family. It wasn't a joke. "I don't know what you're talking about," I said, my voice flat. I took a step toward the hallway. Mark moved, cutting me off. "I'm talking about my wife being a team player. I'm talking about you proving you're not some uptight prude. That you get how this works." "How what works?" I asked, the cold from the floor seeping into my feet. Jake took a swig of his beer. "What Mark's saying, Liz, is that between brothers, there are no lines. What's his is mine. Simple." He took a step forward. The living room felt small. "Trapped. No," I said. The word was clean. Final. Mark's face went hard. "No? No, I'm going to bed. In my room. Jake needs to bounce. Now." Silence. The fridge hummed. Mark was calculating. He couldn't make a scene. Not yet. The fantasy required my participation. Jake chuckled, low and cold. He put his half-finished beer on the counter. "Her loss, man. She'll come around." He gave me a long, slow look, then left. The door clicked shut. "Just me and Mark. You disrespected me," he said, his voice low. "In front of my brother." "He's not my brother," I said. I walked past him, into the bedroom, and shut the door. I didn't lock it. A lock wouldn't matter. The Cold War started the next day. He didn't speak. He didn't touch me. The house was a museum of silence. I went to work. I came home. I slept in the guest room. He didn't care. My existence was an insult. 2 weeks later, he came home early. He was clean, sober, and holding a single piece of paper. He slid it across the kitchen island. I knew what it was. The heading said it all. Petition for divorce. The reason listed was irreconcilable differences. So sterile. It erased the disgusting truth of that night. I looked at him. No emotion. "Just cold satisfaction. You refuse to be a wife," he stated. "You broke this. Sign it. Make it easy." I picked up the paper. I didn't cry. I didn't flinch. I felt a cold, clear focus. "Not a chance," I said. I ripped it in half, then again, letting the pieces fall to the floor between us. "You want out? Fine. You explain it. To the judge. To your parents. To my dad. You tell them you ended our marriage because I wouldn't screw your friend." The rage flashed in his eyes for a second. He thought I'd be ashamed. He thought I'd disappear. He leaned in, palms flat on the counter. "You'll be nothing," he hissed. "Damaged goods. A divorced woman. No one will want you. You should have taken the easy way out." He straightened up and walked out. Official divorce papers were delivered to my job 3 days later. 2 months and 6 days. That's how long the marriage lasted. It ended for one reason. I said no. My lawyer, a woman named Brenda with a sharp gray bob and zero patience, slid the document across her desk. "He's claiming the marriage was never consummated, that you entered into it under false pretenses and refused to fulfill your marital duties." I let out a short, harsh laugh. My duty to him and his friend? Brenda didn't smile. "He's building a narrative, Liz. He's painting you as frigid, deceitful. He's requesting the annulment, and for you to cover his legal fees. He's also contesting the return of the wedding gifts his family gave. She tapped the paper. He's trying to make this as humiliating and expensive for you as possible. Standard operating procedure for guys like this. Mark wasn't just divorcing me. He was trying to erase the 2 months we were married, to legally frame it as a fraud I had perpetrated. He wanted a full reset, with me bearing the cost and the blame. Fight it, I said. All of it. Brenda nodded. We will. But discovery is a two-way street. They'll dig. They'll subpoena your texts, your emails. They'll look for anything to make you look unstable or promiscuous. Be ready. I was ready. My life was boringly clean. Let them look. The first shot across the bow came via a process server at my office. A subpoena for my phone records and a deposition. A week later, I was sitting in a sterile conference room across from Mark's lawyer, a slick guy named Ben, who wore a too-tight suit. Mark sat next to him, staring at a point on the wall behind my head. Ben started soft. Liz, can you describe the nature of your relationship with Mark prior to marriage? It was fine. Good. Did you have an active physical relationship? Yes. And after the marriage? I looked right at Mark. It stopped after he asked me to have sex with his friend, Jake. Mark's jaw tightened. Ben held up a hand. Let's stick to facts, not unsubstantiated allegations. Did you, or did you not, refuse to engage in intimate relations with your husband? After his proposition, yes. Ben shuffled papers. Let's talk about your mental state. Have you ever been treated for anxiety? Depression? No. Are you currently taking any medication? No. He changed tack. What about your relationship with a former colleague, David Miller? There were numerous late-night text exchanges. I almost smiled. David was gay, and we'd been working on a project deadline. They were about work. You can read them. Ben's smile was thin. We have. He slid a photograph across the table. It was a picture of me from 3 years ago, laughing with a group of friends at a bar. A male friend had his arm around my shoulder. You seem very comfortable with male attention. Brenda cut in, her voice like ice. Are you seriously attempting to use a photograph of a woman socializing with friends as evidence of marital misconduct? This is beneath even you, Ben. The deposition dragged on for 2 more hours. It was a grinding, degrading process designed to wear me down. They had nothing, so they threw mud, hoping something would stick. We left the room. In the hallway, Mark finally looked at me. You could have just signed the first papers. It didn't have to be like this. It's exactly like this because of you, I said, not breaking stride. The next phase was uglier. A week later, my dad called, his voice strained. Lizzie, honey, did you and Mark have some kind of open marriage thing? My blood ran cold. What? No, Dad, of course not. Why? A guy called me. Said he was doing a background check for a community safety group. Asked me all sorts of questions about your character. If you were promiscuous. If you had unconventional views on marriage. Mark's team was going after my family, trying to poison my support system. Then, the social media post started. On a local community forum, an anonymous account posted, "Watch out for Liz M. Major Gold Digger. Marries a guy, refuses to be a wife, then tries to take him for everything in the divorce. Psycho." The comments were a sewer. My friend Sarah sent me a screenshot. This is Mark's cousin. I recognized the profile pic from a private album. They were waging a whisper campaign, trying to destroy my reputation in our small city. Brenda was furious. This is actionable. We can file a motion for sanctions. Don't, I said. A plan was forming, cold and hard in my mind. Let them. They're showing the judge exactly who they are. I started my own counter-offensive. I didn't post or respond. I just documented. I saved every screenshot, recorded every weird call to my dad's landline, logged every instance. I went back through my own phone, looking for anything I could use. And I found it. It was a video from our wedding reception. Jake had taken my phone to get some shots. He'd accidentally recorded a 30-second clip. The audio was crystal clear. It was Mark, talking to Jake, just out of frame. Mark's voice, slightly slurred from champagne. "Once she's my wife, man. It'll be different. She'll do anything to make it work. She's traditional like that." Jake's laugh. "You sure? She seems pretty straight-laced." "Mark, trust me. I know how to handle her. She'll come around. What's mine is yours, brother. Always." I had forgotten the video existed. It was chilling to hear it now. He had planned this. Maybe not the exact night, but the dynamic. The expectation. He saw marriage as a tool for control. I didn't send it to Brenda. Not yet. It was my ace in the hole. The final straw came when I got a text from an unknown number. It was a photo of me walking from my car into my apartment building. The text underneath. "Should have been a team player. Now you play alone." It was from Jake. I didn't respond. I just added the screenshot to the file. The game had changed. This wasn't just legal maneuvering anymore. This was intimidation. I went to the police station and filed a report for harassment. The officer was sympathetic but said without an explicit threat, there wasn't much they could do. But I had the report, another document for the file. The court date for the preliminary hearing was set. Mark and Ben were going to argue for the annulment based on my refusal to consummate. They thought they had a clean, clinical way to win. They had no idea what was coming. I was done playing defense. The quiet, obedient wife was gone. They had created the woman sitting in that lawyer's office, holding a phone with a video that would burn their entire case to the ground. My only mistake was saying no, and I was about to make them wish I'd said yes. The courthouse hallway smelled like old wax and anxiety. Ben, Mark's lawyer, was doing that loud, confident laugh thing lawyers do, trying to psych out the other side. Mark stood beside him, looking polished and wronged in a suit that cost more than my car. He didn't look at me. Brenda and I stood apart, silent. She had the file. I had my phone, quick, direct voiceover. The moment of truth. If you're just joining this nightmare, hit subscribe. You need to see how this ends. We filed into the courtroom. A sterile, wood-paneled box. The judge was an older woman with a tired face and sharp eyes. Judge Norris Ben went first. He laid out his case with slick, rehearsed precision. He talked about the sanctity of marriage, the fundamental expectation of conjugal relations. He painted me as a woman who had lured his client into marriage under false pretenses, only to withhold the most basic wifely duties. He made it sound like I'd breached a contract, Your Honor, Ben said, his voice oozing false sympathy. My client entered this union in good faith. He is a successful, upstanding man who simply wanted a partner. What he got was a roommate. A refusal so fundamental it voids the marriage itself. We are seeking an annulment and recovery of legal fees. It was my turn. Brenda stood. She was calm, methodical. Your Honor, my client did not refuse her husband. She refused to be sexually exploited by him and his associate. This isn't about consummation. It's about coercion. Mr. Evans did not want a wife. He wanted a commodity to be shared with his friend, Jake Morris. When Mrs. Evans refused to participate in this arrangement, he retaliated by filing for divorce and launching a campaign of character assassination. Ben was on his feet. Objection! Spectacular speculation. There is zero evidence of these wild allegations. Judge Norris looked over her glasses. Approach the bench. They did. A hushed, tense conversation. I saw Ben's neck get red. He came back to his table, scowling. Brenda continued. We have evidence of the harassment campaign waged by Mr. Evans and his associates against my client. She entered the exhibits into the record. The screenshot of the social media post, the log of the call to my father. Then, she held up her copy of the police report for the harassing text message from Jake. Ben looked like he'd been slapped. He hadn't known about the police report. The text message from Mr. Morris, accompanied by a surveillance-style photograph, constitutes intimidation, Your Honor? Brenda said, her voice cutting through the air. This is not the behavior of an upstanding man. This is the behavior of a man trying to punish a woman for establishing a boundary. I could feel Mark staring at me now, a hot, hateful stare. The judge looked at Ben. "Counselor, does your client deny the sender of this text is his close associate?" Ben stammered. "Your Honor, we'd need to authenticate." "I'll take that as a no," Judge Norris said dryly. She turned back to Brenda. "This is compelling context, counsel, but it speaks to the divorce, not the annulment. The bar for an annulment is high. Do you have any direct evidence corroborating your client's claim about the night in question?" This was it. Brenda looked at me. I gave a slight nod. "Your Honor, we do." Brenda held up a thumb drive. "We would like to enter into evidence a video recording from the plaintiff's own wedding reception. It captures a conversation between Mr. Evans and Mr. Morris that we believe establishes intent." The color drained from Mark's face. He looked at Ben, a silent, panicked question. Ben looked just as shocked. "Objection!" Ben yelled, recovering. "This is a complete ambush. The provenance of this recording is highly suspect. The plaintiff is in the recording, Your Honor," Brenda said coolly. "He can authenticate it himself." Judge Norris ordered the video played. The room was silent as the clerk plugged in the drive. The video flickered on a monitor. It showed blurry images of dancing guests. Then the audio, clear as day. Mark's voice. "Once she's my wife, man, it'll be different. She'll do anything to make it work. She's traditional like that." Jake's laugh. "You sure? She seems pretty straight-laced." Mark. "Trust me, I know how to handle her. She'll come around. What's mine is yours, brother. Always." The video stopped. The silence in the courtroom was absolute. Ben was frantically shuffling papers, but there was nothing to say. The smugness was gone, replaced by a sickly pallor. Mark had his head in his hands. Judge Norris took off her glasses. "Mr. Evans." Her voice was quiet, but it filled the room. "The court finds the petition for annulment to be without merit and brought in bad faith. The request for legal fees is denied. The marriage will be dissolved as a standard divorce." She wasn't done. She looked at Brenda's exhibits. "However, given the evidence of a coordinated campaign of harassment, I am referring the matter of the text message and photograph to the district attorney's office for consideration of criminal charges against Jake Morris. Furthermore, I am ordering Mr. Evans to pay all of Mrs. Evans's legal fees related to this proceeding." She slammed her gavel down. "Next case." It was over. Just like that. We walked out of the courtroom. In the hallway, Mark finally broke. He lunged toward me, but Ben held him back. "You bitch!" He spat, his face contorted. "You recorded me? You set me up." I stopped and looked at him. I felt nothing. No anger, no victory. Just a vast, empty calm. "No, Mark," I said, my voice even. "You did that to yourself?" I turned and walked away with Brenda. The annulment was dead. He was on the hook for my lawyer. Jake was facing possible criminal charges. He had lost, completely and utterly. But as I pushed through the heavy courthouse doors into the afternoon sun, I knew it wasn't over. I had humiliated him in a public forum. I had cost him money. I had gotten his best friend charged. A man like Mark doesn't just accept that. He doesn't learn a lesson. He licks his wounds and he plans his revenge. The legal battle was won. The real war was just beginning. The first month after the hearing was quiet. Too quiet. The divorce was finalized in a bland, procedural hearing. Mark was ordered to pay my legal fees. He did, with a check that arrived in the mail without a note. I moved apartments, got a new phone number. I thought maybe it was over. I was wrong. It started with a new Instagram account, Lena the Liar. The profile picture was a cropped photo of me from our wedding. The bio read, "Gold-digging whore who destroys marriages for fun." They posted the same photo from the community forum, along with snippets of the court transcript, edited to make it look like I was the one with the problem. They tagged my friends, my old co-workers. Then came the dating app profiles. On 3 different sites, someone created accounts using my photos. The bios were explicit, inviting men to my new address, which they had somehow found. I started getting knocks on my door at 2A, and from confused, angry men who said Lena had stood them up. I knew it was Mark, or Jake, or both. The police said the same thing as before. It was harassment, but without a direct, provable threat. Their hands were tied. They told me to change my locks, which I did. Brenda sent a cease and desist letter to Mark's last known address. It was returned, unopened. The final escalation happened on a Tuesday. I was walking from the grocery store to my car in the underground garage. The sound of a powerful engine echoed off the concrete walls. A black pickup truck, Jake's truck, roared around the corner, its headlights blinding me. It didn't slow down. I dropped my groceries and threw myself between 2 parked cars. The truck sped past, missing me by inches, the side mirror clipping the hood of the car next to me with a sickening crunch. It didn't stop. It just kept going, the roar of its engine fading into the distance. I sat on the cold concrete, my heart trying to hammer its way out of my chest. My hands were scraped. Oranges from my grocery bag were rolling under cars. This wasn't just harassment anymore. This was attempted murder. Or at the very least, aggravated assault. The garage had security cameras. The police reviewed the footage. They saw the truck. They saw it speed toward me. They saw me dive out of the way. But the footage was too grainy. The license plate was obscured by glare. "We can't prove who was driving," the officer told me, his face grim. "Without that, it's just a traffic violation, a hit and run." That was the moment something in me broke. Not in fear, but in a cold, final resolve. The system had failed me. The law had failed me. Going back to Brenda, getting another restraining order. It was just more paper. Paper wouldn't stop a truck. I had to end this, permanently. I didn't go to the police. I didn't call a lawyer. I went home, poured a drink I didn't touch, and I waited. I knew they weren't finished. They had crossed a line, and they would be high on the adrenaline of it. They would want to see the damage. 2 hours later, my phone buzzed. An unknown number. A text. "Did you like the show?" There's more where that came from. "You should have just been a good wife." It was from a burner app, untraceable. But I knew. I didn't respond. I just saved it. I had one card left to play. A dangerous one. I still had the video from the wedding. The one that had destroyed them in court. I made a copy. Then I found what I was looking for. Mark's father's email address. The old man was a decorated Marine, rigid, traditional, the kind of man who valued honor above all else. I also found Jake's mother, a devout woman who was the pillar of her local church. I composed 2 emails. They were identical. Attached is a video from your son's wedding. You will also find police reports for harassment and a statement from the parking garage security company regarding the attempted hit and run this evening. Your son, Mark Jake, is involved in a campaign of terror against me because I refused to participate in a sexual arrangement he proposed. It has now escalated to violence. The police are aware. The courts are aware. But they cannot stop him. Only you can. If this does not end now, tonight, I will release this video and all associated evidence to the local news. Not to the police, to the news. I will make sure every single person in this city knows exactly what kind of men they raised. You have 1 hour. I attached the video, the police report number, and the security company's incident log. I hit send. 23 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Mark. His voice was a strangled whisper, raw with a terror I had never heard before. "Please." The word was choked. "Please don't. My father. He's disowning me. He's cutting me off from everything. Jake's mother is having a heart attack. You've ruined us." "No," I said, my voice like ice. "You did that. The video ends now. The texts end now. The trucks end now. You will never contact me again. You will never look at me again. If I so much as feel a shadow I don't like, if a single strange thing happens to me for the rest of my life, I won't call the police. I will call a reporter. Do you understand?" A long, shuddering breath. I understand. The line went dead. I sat in the silence of my new apartment. The silence felt different this time. It wasn't the silence of waiting for the next attack. It was the silence of peace. I never heard from him again. The fake accounts vanished. The knocks on my door stopped. A year later, I heard through a mutual acquaintance that Mark had moved to another state. Jake stayed, but he was a ghost, stripped of his swagger. They hadn't been afraid of the law. The law was a game they thought they could play. They were afraid of the one thing they couldn't control. The truth, delivered to the people whose opinion they actually valued. I didn't beat them with a better lawyer or a smarter legal strategy. I beat them by being willing to burn their entire world to the ground. My only mistake was saying no. And in the end, that no was the one thing that saved me.